Silas Brennan dropped to his knees in the snow. His hands shook as he pulled the frozen woman into his arms. Blood stained the white ground beneath her bare feet. A wedding dress clung to her body like a burial shroud. "Papa!" his youngest screamed. "She ain't movin'!" But Silas couldn't speak. He knew this face. He'd dreamed of this face for 3 years, the woman who'd vanished without a word, the woman he'd sworn to forget. She was supposed to be married to another man. She was supposed to be gone forever. If you want to know why this bride ran barefoot through a blizzard to find him, subscribe to my channel and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The wagon wheels groaned against the frozen road. Silas Brennan kept his eyes forward, jaw tight, hands steady on the reins. His 2 boys huddled beside him, under a thick wool blanket. Eli, the older one at 7, pressed close to his father's side. Little Sam, just 5, had burrowed between them like a rabbit hiding from wolves. "Papa, I'm cold," Sam whimpered. "I know, son. We're almost home." "You said that an hour ago," Eli muttered. Silas didn't answer. The boy was right. The storm had come faster than expected, rolling across the Montana plains like God's own fury. They should have left town earlier, should have skipped the mercantile and headed straight back to the ranch. But hindsight didn't warm frozen fingers. "Keep that blanket tight," Silas said. "Both of you, don't let the wind steal it." The horses snorted steam rising from their nostrils. They were good animals bred for harsh winters, but even they were struggling now. Ice clung to their manes. Their hooves slipped on patches of frozen ground. "Papa!" Eli tugged his sleeve. "Something's in the road. Probably a deer." "No, Papa. Look." Silas squinted through the driving snow. At first he saw nothing but white, endless suffocating white that swallowed everything. Then the shape emerged. Not a deer. Not an animal at all. A woman. Standing in the middle of the road like a ghost. Whoa. Silas pulled the reins. The horses stopped, grateful for the rest. He handed the leather straps to Eli. "Hold these. Don't let go." "But Papa." "Don't let go, Eli. You hear me?" The boy nodded, fear widening his eyes. Silas climbed down from the wagon. His boots sank into snow that reached his shins. Each step felt like walking through molasses. The wind cut through his coat, finding every gap, every weakness. The woman didn't move. She stood with her arms hanging loose at her sides. Her head was bowed, dark hair plastered wet against her cheeks. She wore a dress, no, not just a dress. A wedding gown. Cream-colored silk with lace at the collar, intricate beading along the bodice. The kind of garment that cost more than Silas earned in a year. But the hem was frozen stiff. The fabric was torn at one shoulder. And her feet, God Almighty, her feet. She was barefoot, standing in snow that would kill a grown man in hours. Her skin had turned the color of old wax, cracked and bleeding where the cold had split it open. "Ma'am?" Silas approached slowly. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" She lifted her head. Silas stopped breathing. He knew that face. He'd traced that jawline with his fingers. He'd kissed those lips under the summer stars. He'd planned a life with those dark eyes looking back at him. Clara Whitmore. The woman who'd promised to marry him 3 years ago. The woman who'd vanished one autumn morning without a word, without a letter, without so much as a goodbye. The woman he'd spent 18 months hating and 18 more trying to forget. "Clara?" Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Just a thin wisp of frozen breath. "Clara, what the hell?" She collapsed. Silas caught her before she hit the ground. She weighed almost nothing lighter than he remembered, as if the years had hollowed her out from the inside. Her skin felt like ice through the wet silk of her dress. "Papa?" Sam's voice carried over the wind. "Is she dead? Is the lady dead?" "She ain't dead," Silas shouted back, though he wasn't entirely sure. He pressed his fingers to her throat. Found a pulse weak, thready, but there. She ain't dead yet. He lifted her in his arms and carried her to the wagon. Eli scrambled aside, eyes huge. Sam started crying, the high-pitched wail of a child confronting something he couldn't understand. "Hush now," Silas said, laying Clara among the supply crates in the wagon bed. "Both of you hush. She's gonna be fine." "Who is she, Papa?" Eli asked. Silas didn't answer. He stripped off his coat and covered Clara with it, then climbed back to the driver's seat. His hands were shaking now, and not from the cold. "Papa, she's someone I used to know," Silas said finally. "A long time ago." He snapped the reins. The horses lurched forward. The wagon rolled on through the blizzard carrying 4 souls instead of 3. The ranch appeared through the white, like a fever dream. Silas had never been so grateful to see that sagging porch, that leaning barn, those fences half buried in snow. Home, safety, warmth. "Eli, take your brother inside. Stoke the fire. Get it hot as you can." "But I want to help." "Do as I say, boy. Now." Eli grabbed Sam's hand and ran for the cabin. Silas lifted Clara from the wagon bed and carried her across the yard. Her head lolled against his shoulder. Her breathing was so shallow he had to strain to hear it. Inside the cabin was dark and cold. The fire had died while they were away, leaving only ash and embers. Eli was already on his knees by the hearth feeding kindling to the coals. "Good boy," Silas said. "Keep at it." He laid Clara on the worn sofa near the fireplace. The blankets from the bedroom, he fetched them, piling them over her shivering body. Her lips had gone blue. Her skin was gray. Frostbite was already setting into her feet, the flesh swelling and darkening at the edges. "Is she gonna die, Papa?" Sam whispered from the corner. "Not if I can help it." Silas knelt beside the sofa. He took Clara's hands, both of them frozen stiff, and began rubbing them between his own. Friction, warmth, slow and steady, the way he'd warm a newborn calf that came too early in spring. "Come on, Clara," he muttered. "Come on. Don't you dare die on me now." Her eyelids fluttered. "That's it. Come back. You didn't walk through a blizzard just to give up now." A soft moan escaped her lips. Her fingers twitched in his grip. "Eli, bring me warm water, not hot warm. You understand." "Yes, Papa." The boy ran to the kitchen. Silas heard the pump squeak, then the splash of water in a basin. Eli returned carrying the basin, carefully, water sloshing over the rim. "Hold her feet up," Silas instructed. "Gentle, real gentle." Together they lowered Clara's feet into the basin. She gasped, her body jerking at the sensation. Her eyes flew open, wild, panicked, seeing nothing. "Easy." Silas pressed a hand to her shoulder. "Easy, Clara. You're safe. You're at my ranch. You're gonna be all right." Her gaze found his face. Recognition dawned slowly, like sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "Silas?" Her voice came out cracked, barely louder than a breath. "Yeah, it's me." Tears spilled down her cheeks, cutting tracks through the grime and cold. "I found you." "You found me." He didn't know what else to say. Didn't know if he should be angry or relieved or terrified. Maybe all 3. "What the hell were you doing out there, Clara? You could have died. You nearly did die." "I had to." Her hand found his gripping with surprising strength. "I had to find you, Silas, before it was too late." "Too late for what?" She opened her mouth to answer, but her eyes rolled back. Her grip went slack. She'd passed out again, the brief moment of consciousness already spent. Silas sat back on his heels, heart pounding. Sam crept closer, peering at Clara's face with the fearless curiosity of young children. "She's pretty, Papa." "Yeah," Silas said quietly. "She is." "Is she your friend?" The question cut deeper than the boy could know. Friend. The word didn't begin to cover what Clara Whitmore had been to him, what she was supposed to be, what she'd destroyed when she disappeared. She was Silas said. "A long time ago." "What happened?" "I don't know, son." He stood running a hand through his hair. "I reckon that's what we're gonna find out." Hours passed. The storm continued outside, wind howling against the cabin walls, snow piling higher against the windows. Inside, warmth slowly won its battle with the cold. The fire roared in the hearth. Lanterns cast dancing shadows across the rough-hewn walls. Clara slept on the sofa, her breathing steady, now color slowly returning to her cheeks. Silas had changed her out of the ruined wedding dress, a task that made him uncomfortable in ways he couldn't name, and wrapped her in one of his old shirts and a pair of wool socks. The wedding gown lay in a heap by the door, frozen silk slowly thawing into a puddle on the floor. Eli and Sam had finally fallen asleep in their room, exhaustion overcoming their curiosity. Silas sat in the chair across from Clara, watching her breathe, trying to make sense of what had happened. 3 years. 3 years since the morning he'd gone to her father's store with wildflowers in his hand and a ring in his pocket. 3 years since her father had met him at the door with cold eyes and colder words. "She's gone, Brennan. Left last night. Said to tell you she changed her mind." Silas remembered standing there on that porch, flowers wilting in his fist, feeling like the ground had opened up beneath his feet. Changed her mind, like their plans had been nothing but a passing fancy. Like the future they'd built together in whispered conversations and stolen kisses had meant nothing at all. He'd asked where she went. Her father wouldn't say. He'd asked to see the note she left. Her father said there wasn't one. He'd asked if she was coming back. Her father had laughed and closed the door in his face. The town had plenty of theories after that. Clara Whitmore had run off with a traveling salesman. Clara Whitmore had married a silver baron from Denver. Clara Whitmore had taken ill and died somewhere back east. Silas had listened to all of it, believed none of it, but eventually the not knowing had worn him down like water on stone, smoothing the sharp edges of his grief into something duller, more manageable. He told himself to move on, raise his boys, work his land, stop waiting for a woman who wasn't coming back. And now she was here, on his sofa, in a wedding dress that wasn't meant for him. "Why?" he whispered to her sleeping form. "Why now, Clara? After all this time?" She didn't answer, just breathed. In and out, the rhythm of someone fighting their way back from the edge of death. Near midnight, she woke. Silas was dozing in the chair when her voice pulled him back to consciousness. "Silas?" He sat up, blinking. Clara was watching him, her dark eyes reflecting firelight. She looked small beneath the pile of blankets. Small and fragile, and nothing like the confident woman he remembered. "You're awake," he said, stating the obvious because he didn't know what else to say. "How long?" "Few hours. Storm still going." She nodded slowly, processing. Her gaze drifted around the cabin, the simple furniture, the worn rugs, the shelves lined with canned goods and children's books. "This is your home." "Has been for 8 years now." "It's..." She paused, searching for words. "It's good. It feels good. It ain't much. It's everything." Her voice cracked on the word. "I dreamed about places like this, simple and warm and real, while I was..." She stopped. Her jaw tightened, that old stubbornness surfacing. "While you were... what?" Silas leaned forward. "Where the hell have you been, Clara? 3 years. 3 goddamn years without a single word. I thought you were dead. Sometimes I wished you were, because at least that would explain..." "I wrote to you." The words hit him like a physical blow. "What?" "I wrote to you." Clara pushed herself up on one elbow, wincing at the effort. 3 letters in the first year alone. "I told you everything, where I was, what they'd done. How much I needed you to know. I hadn't chosen this." "I never got any letters." I know that now. Her voice shook with something between rage and grief. But I didn't know it then. I thought you'd received them. I thought you'd read my words and decided I wasn't worth the trouble. That maybe my family was right about you after all. Silas felt the floor shift beneath him. Your family. They took me, Silas. The night before I was supposed to meet you at the church. My father and 2 of his men. They came to my room in the dark and put me in a wagon and drove me to Denver. Denver! To a man named Marcus Holloway. The name dripped from her lips like poison. A mining baron, 52 years old. My father owed him money, a lot of money. Bad investments, gambling debts, I don't know. But the deal was simple. Holloway would forgive the debt in exchange for a young wife. The fire popped and hissed. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, Silas sat frozen, his mind racing to catch up with what he was hearing. Your father sold you, he said slowly, like livestock. Clara's laugh was bitter hollow. He told me I should be grateful. That Holloway was rich and respectable and would give me a better life than a rancher ever could. That I was being foolish, clinging to romantic notions about a man who couldn't provide for me. I would have provided for you. I know. Tears slid down her cheeks. I told them that. I begged them to let me go back to you. But my father said the arrangement was already made, that breaking it would ruin him, that if I truly loved my family, I would do my duty. Silas stood up so fast, the chair scraped against the floor. He paced to the window, staring out at the white nothing beyond the glass. His hands were shaking again. Not from cold this time, from rage. 3 years, he said through gritted teeth. They kept you prisoner for 3 years. It didn't start that way. At first they called it preparation. Etiquette lessons, dance lessons, how to host dinner parties and make conversation with wealthy men. They said the wedding would happen once I was properly trained. Trained. The word tasted foul. But the wedding kept getting delayed. Holloway traveled constantly, business in San Francisco, investments. In the territories, always something more important than actually marrying me. I think, she hesitated, I think he didn't really want a wife. He wanted the idea of one, someone to display at parties, someone to prove he could possess beautiful things. Silas turned back to face her. And tonight? Clara's expression hardened. Tonight they finally set the date. Holloway returned from his latest trip. My father insisted it happen immediately before I could cause problems. They dressed me up, put flowers in my hair, told me to smile and be grateful. But you ran. I climbed out a window. Her chin lifted defiant. Tore this ridiculous dress on the frame. Ran barefoot into the snow because I knew if I stayed 1 more minute I would die anyway. Maybe not my body, but everything else. Silence stretched between them. The fire crackled. The wind moaned. Silas crossed the room slowly. He knelt beside the sofa, bringing himself to her eye level. Up close, he could see the toll the years had taken. Fine lines that hadn't been there before. A hardness around her mouth. Shadows beneath her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and swallowed tears. The letters, he said quietly. Who delivered them? Clara's face crumpled. Your foreman, Jed Carver. I saw him in Denver. He came on business buying supplies. I recognized him from when he'd worked your ranch. I managed to slip him the letters through a maid. He promised. Her voice broke. He swore on his honor he'd deliver them to you personally. Jed Carver. The name landed like a bullet. Silas rocked back on his heels. Jed, who'd worked his ranch for 6 years. Jed, who'd offered sympathy and whiskey when Clara first disappeared. Jed, who'd said maybe it was for the best that a woman like her would have grown bored with ranch life eventually. Jed, who'd watched Silas grieve and said nothing, done nothing, while knowing exactly where Clara was and why she'd never written back. He destroyed them, Silas said flatly. He took your letters and he destroyed them, and he let me believe. I'm sorry. Clara's hand found his. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought you'd read them. I thought you'd given up on me. I thought you'd given up on me. They stared at each other across the space of 3 years and 1,000 lies. Two people who'd been torn apart by forces beyond their control. Two people who'd built walls around their pain because it hurt less than hope. I never stopped, Clara whispered. Loving you, even when I thought you'd abandoned me. Even when I tried to hate you because it was easier. I never stopped. Silas couldn't speak. The words were locked somewhere in his chest, tangled with anger and grief and something that might have been joy if he'd let himself feel it. Instead, he lifted her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her cold fingers. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Rest now, he said. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. Silas. Her grip tightened. Holloway will come looking. My father, too. They won't let me go without a fight. Let them come. His voice was steady and low, carrying the quiet certainty of a man who'd survived hard winters and harder losses. This land doesn't bow to their kind of power. Clara searched his face looking for doubt or fear. She found neither. You'd risk that, she asked. After everything. After I disappeared and left you with nothing but questions and hurt. Silas stood slowly. He looked down at her. This woman who'd walked through a blizzard barefoot, who'd climbed through windows and torn silk and chosen death in the snow over a life that wasn't hers. You didn't disappear, he said. You were taken. There's a difference. He moved toward the door, pausing with his hand on the frame. Tomorrow, he added, we're going to have a talk with Jed Carver. The name hung in the air like a promise, or maybe a threat. Clara watched him go, her heart pounding with emotions she'd thought long dead. Hope, gratitude, and underneath it all, the first fragile stirrings of something that might eventually become trust again. Outside, the storm began to ease, and somewhere in the darkness, a man named Marcus Holloway was already gathering his men. Morning came slow and gray. Clara woke to the sound of small feet padding across wooden floors. She opened her eyes to find two boys standing at the foot of the sofa staring at her with the unblinking intensity of curious animals. The older one, Eli, she remembered, had his father's dark hair and serious eyes. The younger one, Sam, clutched a worn blanket to his chest and sucked his thumb. You're still here, Eli said. Not accusatory, just observing. I am. Papa said you might die. I didn't. I can see that. Clara almost smiled. The boy had his father's directness, too. What's your name? Eli. This here's Sam. He don't talk much to strangers. I ain't a stranger, Sam protested around his thumb. She's the stranger. That's what I meant, dummy. I ain't a dummy. Boys? Silas's voice cut through the squabble. He stood in the doorway, coat dusted with snow, carrying an armload of firewood. Let her be. She needs rest. I'm fine, Clara said, pushing herself upright. Pain shot through her feet, a sharp reminder of the damage she'd done to herself. Really, I've rested enough. Silas dumped the wood by the hearth. Your feet say different. My feet don't get a vote. Something flickered across his face, almost a smile. Almost. Stubborn as ever. You say that like it's a bad thing. Saved your life last night. Might be the only reason you made it through that storm. Clara looked down at her bandaged feet. He was right, of course. Stubbornness had carried her through miles of frozen wilderness. Stubbornness and something else. Something she wasn't ready to name yet. Papa? Eli tugged his father's sleeve. Is she staying? Silas glanced at Clara. The question hung between them, heavy with implications neither was prepared to address. For now, Silas said finally. She's staying for now. Good. Sam removed his thumb from his mouth long enough to offer Clara a gap-toothed grin. 'Cause I like her hair. It's pretty. Clara felt something crack open in her chest. 3 years in that Denver prison surrounded by silk and servants and hollow pleasantries. And here was a 5-year-old boy offering her more genuine warmth than she'd felt in all that time. "Thank you, Sam." Her voice came out thick. "I like your blanket." "It was Mama's," the boy said matter-of-factly. "She died when I got born. Papa says she's watching from heaven." The crack widened. Clara looked at Silas, but he'd turned away, busying himself with the fire. "I'm sure she is," Clara said softly. "I'm sure she's very proud of you both." Eli studied her with those two old eyes. "You knew our papa before." "I did." "Were you his sweetheart?" "Eli." Silas's voice carried a warning. "I'm just asking." "Well, don't. It's all right." Clara met the boy's gaze steadily. "Yes, I was. A long time ago." "Then why'd you leave?" The question hit like a slap. Clara opened her mouth, but no words came. How did you explain the cruelty of the world to a 7-year-old? How did you tell a child that sometimes people got stolen away from the ones they loved? "She didn't leave," Silas said quietly. He'd stopped pretending to tend the fire. "She was taken. There's a difference." Eli frowned, processing. "Taken by who?" "Bad people. Like outlaws. Worse. People who smile while they hurt you." Sam's eyes went wide. "That's scary." "Yeah, son, it is." Clara watched Silas with the boys, the easy way he spoke to them, the gentle authority in his voice. He'd become a good father. Better than good. These children were loved, truly loved, in a way she'd never experienced in her own family. It made what she had to tell him even harder. "Silas." She waited until he looked at her. "We need to talk. About Jed." His jaw tightened. "I know." "Where is he?" "Bunkhouse, waiting for the storm to clear before he heads to town for supplies." Silas turned to his sons. "Boys, go feed the chickens." "But it's cold," Sam whined. "Then dress warm. Go on, scoot." The boys bundled into their coats and disappeared out the back door. Silas waited until their footsteps faded before facing Clara. "Tell me everything," he said. "Everything about those letters." Clara took a breath. "The first one I wrote 2 weeks after they took me. I explained where I was, what my father had done, that the engagement to Holloway wasn't my choice. I begged you to come for me." "I would have." "I know, that's why I wrote it." She twisted the blanket between her fingers. "When you didn't respond, I thought maybe it got lost. Mail gets lost all the time. So I wrote again a month later. Same thing where I was, how to find me, how much I needed you." Silas stood motionless, his face carved from stone. "The third letter." Clara's voice wavered. 6 months in. I was desperate by then. I described the guest house where they kept me. The schedule of the guards. Which windows were unlocked at night. I gave you everything you'd need to reach me. And Jed took all 3. I handed them to him myself. He looked me in the eye and promised on his mother's grave he'd deliver them. The bitter laugh escaped before she could stop it. His mother's grave. I believed him. Why would he do it? Silas's hands had curled into fists at his sides. What did he have to gain? Clara hesitated. This was the part she'd dreaded. "Silas, did Jed ever say anything to you about me?" "What do you mean?" "The way he looked at me sometimes, when we were courting. The way he'd find reasons to talk to me when you weren't around." Understanding dawned slowly in Silas's eyes, followed quickly by something darker. "He wanted you." "I think so. I was young and stupid and didn't see it for what it was, but looking back..." She shook her head. "He thought if I was gone, if you believed I'd abandoned you eventually, you'd stop waiting, and maybe someday he could..." "No." "I'm not saying it makes sense. Jealousy never does." "I trusted him." The words came out ragged. 6 years he's worked my land. 6 years he's eaten at my table, watched my boys, shared my whiskey. And all this time he knew." Clara reached for his hand. "He knew where I was. He knew you were hurting, and he let it happen." Silas pulled away. Not from her, from himself. from the storm building inside him that threatened to break everything in its path. "Stay here," he said. "Silas." "Stay here, Clara." He grabbed his coat and was out the door before she could protest. The cold hit him like a wall, but Silas barely felt it. His blood ran too hot, rage burning through him with every step toward the bunkhouse. 6 years. 6 years of lies. He'd defended Jed to other ranchers who said the man was shifty. He'd given Jed raises, trusted him with the accounts, let him help raise Eli and Sam. He'd considered him family, and family didn't betray family. The bunkhouse door flew open under his fist. Jed Carver sat at the small table inside, coffee cup halfway to his lips. He was a lean man, weathered by sun and wind, with eyes that always seemed to be calculating something. "Silas." Jed set down his cup. "Hell of a storm last night. You make it back all right with the boys?" "We made it." "Good, good." Jed leaned back in his chair. "Need something?" Silas stepped inside, closed the door behind him. The click of the latch sounded very loud in the small space. "Found someone on the road last night." "That's so. Who'd be fool enough to travel in that weather?" "Clara Whitmore." The change was subtle, a flicker in Jed's eyes, a slight tightening of his shoulders. If Silas hadn't been looking for it, he might have missed it. "Clara." Jed's voice stayed casual, too casual. "Thought she ran off years ago." "She didn't run." "No. She was taken, held prisoner in Denver, engaged against her will to a mining baron named Holloway." Jed shook his head slowly. "That's terrible. Poor woman." "She wrote to me." Silas took a step closer. 3 letters, explaining everything, begging me to come for her." "Well, I never saw any." "She gave them to you, Jed." Silence. The 2 men stared at each other across the cramped bunkhouse. Outside, the wind had died to a whisper. Inside, tension stretched tight as a bowstring. "She's confused," Jed said finally. "Been through a lot, sounds like. Probably doesn't remember right." "She remembers fine. Handed you the letters herself. You swore on your mother's grave." "Silas." 3 letters. Silas's voice dropped low and dangerous. 3 chances to tell me the woman I loved was being held against her will. 3 chances to do the right thing, and you destroyed them all." Jed's facade cracked. Something ugly flickered beneath the surface, resentment maybe, or guilt, or some twisted combination of both. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Then explain it to me." "There ain't nothing to explain." Silas moved fast. One moment he was standing by the door. The next he had Jed by the collar, hauling him out of the chair and slamming him against the wall. "Don't lie to me." Each word came out sharp as a blade. "Not now. Not after everything. You owe me the truth, Jed. You owe me that much." Jed's hands came up, gripping Silas's wrists. His eyes darted around the room, looking for escape, finding none. "All right." The word burst out. "All right, damn you. I took them." Silas's grip tightened. "Why?" "Because you were better off without her." The confession hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. "Better off," Silas repeated slowly. "She was gonna ruin you, Silas. A woman like that, educated, refined, used to nice things. How long before she realized what she'd given up? How long before she started resenting you for the life you couldn't give her? That wasn't your decision to make. Someone had to make it. You were so blind, so stupid in love you couldn't see what was right in front of you. She would have left eventually. They always do." Silas stared at the man he'd trusted for 6 years. The man who'd sat with him through sleepless nights, who'd listened to him wonder what he'd done wrong, who'd poured him whiskey and said maybe it was for the best. "You watched me grieve," Silas said quietly. "You watched me fall apart, wondering why she left. And you said nothing. I was protecting you. You were protecting yourself." Jed's jaw clenched. "I loved her too, you know, from the first moment I saw her. But she only had eyes for you, always you. The great Silas Brennan with his horses and his land and his damned honor. So you punished us both. I gave you a chance to move on, to build a life without her. And you did, didn't you? You've got this ranch, those boys. Those boys don't have a mother because I stopped looking for love after Clara. The words ripped out of Silas before he could stop them. I married Sarah because she was kind and practical and didn't make me feel. Because feeling was too dangerous after what I thought Clara did to me. Jed's face went pale. Silas. Sarah deserved better. She deserved a man who loved her the way I loved Clara, but she got me instead. Broken and bitter and holding back. She died giving me Sam, and the last thing she saw was a man who couldn't give her his whole heart, because you'd stolen the woman who held the other half. The silence that followed was deafening. Silas released Jed, stepping back. His hands were shaking. Not from rage this time. From something deeper. Something that felt like years of grief finally finding its voice. "Get out," he said. "What?" "You're done here. Pack your things and get off my land." "Silas, you can't." "I can. I am." Silas opened the door. Cold air rushed in. "You've got until noon. After that I see your face again, I won't be responsible for what happens." Jed's expression twisted. Desperation. Anger. Fear. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That ain't my concern anymore. You're making a mistake. That woman's gonna bring trouble down on you. Holloway's got money power." "Then let him come." "He will. You think a man like that is gonna let his bride just walk away? He'll burn this place to the ground." Silas paused in the doorway, looked back at the man who'd been his friend, his confidant, his betrayer. "Maybe he'll try," Silas said, "but I'd rather die fighting for what's right than live knowing I never fought at all." He walked out into the cold, leaving Jed Carver alone with his choices. Clara was waiting on the porch when he returned. She'd wrapped herself in a blanket, standing despite the pain in her feet, watching the bunkhouse with anxious eyes. "I heard shouting," she said. "It's done." "What did he say?" Silas climbed the porch steps, stood before her. For a long moment he just looked at her. Really looked, seeing past the years and the hurt to the woman underneath. "He admitted everything, took your letters, destroyed them, let us both suffer because he couldn't have what he wanted." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. I brought this on you. The lies, the betrayal. Jed's choices are Jed's, not yours." Silas reached out, hesitated, then let his hand rest on her shoulder. "You survived, Clara. You escaped. You walked through a blizzard to find me. Don't apologize for that, ever." She covered his hand with hers. Her fingers were still cold but warming. "What happens now?" "Now we wait, storm's clearing. Jed'll be gone by noon. And after that? After that, Holloway comes. Probably. He won't stop, Silas. He's not the kind of man who accepts losing. Neither am I." The words settled between them. A promise. A declaration. Something stronger than the fear that had ruled both their lives for too long. "Papa!" Eli's voice carried from the barn. "Papa, come quick." Silas was moving before the words finished. Clara hobbled after him, blanket clutched around her shoulders, ignoring the fire in her feet. In the barn, Eli stood pointing toward the road that led to town. Sam clung to his brother's coat, eyes wide. "Riders," Eli said. "4 of them, coming fast." Silas squinted against the morning glare. 4 shapes on horseback approaching at a gallop. Too fast for a social call. Too purposeful for lost travelers. "Get inside," he told the boys. "Take Clara with you. Lock the doors." "But Papa." "Now Eli." The boy grabbed Sam's hand and ran. Clara didn't move. "You too," Silas said. "I'm not hiding." "Clara." "They're here for me. I won't let you face them alone." There was no time to argue. The riders were closer now, close enough to make out faces. 4 men in heavy coats, pistols visible at their hips. At their head rode a man Clara recognized. Thomas Burke, Holloway's head of security, a former Pinkerton with a reputation for finding people who didn't want to be found. "Miss Whitmore," Burke called out as they approached. "Mr. Holloway's been worried sick. We've been searching all night." "I'm not going back." Clara's voice didn't waver. "Tell him that." Burke brought his horse to a stop a dozen yards from the porch. His eyes swept over Silas, assessing, calculating. "This must be the rancher, Brennan, isn't it?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Holloway heard rumors Miss Whitmore might try to contact you. Seems those rumors were correct." "Get off my land," Silas said. "Now there's no need for hostility. We're just here to escort Miss Whitmore back to Denver. She's clearly unwell, barefoot in a blizzard. That's not the behavior of a sound mind." "My mind is fine," Clara snapped. "I'd rather freeze to death than marry that man." "Dramatic." Burke's smile widened. "But unnecessary. Mr. Holloway is a reasonable man. Whatever concerns you have, I'm sure they can be addressed." "My concern is being sold like property. Can he address that?" Burke's expression flickered. Just for a moment. "Miss Whitmore, let's not make this difficult." "It's already difficult." Silas stepped forward, placing himself between Clara and the riders. "The lady said she ain't going. That's the end of it." "I'm afraid it's not that simple. Miss Whitmore is Mr. Holloway's fiancée. They have a legal agreement." "An agreement she didn't consent to." "The law doesn't require a woman's consent for a betrothal arranged by her family." Burke's voice hardened. "Now we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. But either way, she's coming with us." The 3 men behind Burke spread out slightly. Hands moved toward holstered weapons. The message was clear. Silas didn't flinch. "You come on my property, threaten the woman under my protection, and expect me to just hand her over." "I expect you to be practical, Mr. Brennan. You're 1 man against 4. You've got children in that cabin. Think about what happens to them if this goes badly." The words hit their mark. Silas's jaw tightened. Behind him, Clara felt her heart stop. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't let them use your boys against you. I'll go. You're not going anywhere." "Silas, please." "I said no." Burke sighed as if disappointed by a wayward child. "Last chance, Brennan. Step aside, let us take the girl, and everyone walks away healthy." Silas's hand moved to the rifle leaning against the porch railing. His fingers wrapped around the stock. "Get off my land," he repeated. "I won't ask again." The standoff stretched. 4 men on horseback against 1 rancher with a rifle and a woman in a nightgown. The math was simple. The outcome seemed inevitable. Then a voice rang out from the barn. "Papa ain't alone." Everyone turned. Eli stood in the barn doorway, his father's old shotgun raised to his shoulder. The weapon was almost too big for him, but his hands were steady. "I know how to shoot," the boy said. "Papa taught me." Burke laughed. "Put that down before you hurt yourself, kid." "Make me." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Burke's smile faded. He looked at Silas, then at Clara, then at the 7-year-old boy holding a shotgun, with the calm determination of someone twice his age. "This isn't over," Burke said finally. "Mr. Holloway will hear about this. All of it." "Good. Tell him I said to come himself next time, so I can explain things properly." Burke wheeled his horse around. His men followed, riding back down the road toward town. Nobody relaxed until the hoofbeats faded to silence. Silas crossed to his son in 3 quick strides. He knelt before Eli, taking the shotgun gently from the boy's hands. "That was brave," he said quietly, "and stupid. You needed help." "I did." Silas pulled his son into a fierce embrace. "God help me, I did." Clara watched them from the porch, tears streaming down her face. This man. These boys. They'd just put themselves between her and the wolves. For her. a woman who'd brought nothing but trouble to their door. She didn't deserve them, but she was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, she could become someone who did. The next 2 days passed like a held breath. Silas didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every creak of the cabin, every whisper of wind, sent him reaching for his rifle. He'd moved the boys into the main room, set up bedrolls near the fireplace where he could watch them, where he could watch the door. Clara healed slowly. Her feet remained bandaged, the frostbite damage requiring time and care. But she refused to stay in bed, refused to be helpless while danger circled closer. "You should eat something," she said on the third morning, pushing a plate toward Silas. "Not hungry." "You haven't eaten since yesterday." "I said I'm not hungry." Clara set the plate down harder than necessary. Starving yourself won't make Holloway disappear. Silas looked up from the window he'd been watching. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. 3 days of stubble roughened his jaw. He looked older than his 38 years. "I ain't starving myself. I'm thinking." "About what?" "About how to keep you alive when a man with unlimited money and no conscience comes for what he considers his property." The words hung between them. Clara felt the weight of them, the impossibility of the situation she'd brought to his door. "Maybe I should leave," she said quietly. "Head west. California maybe. Somewhere Holloway can't." "No." "Silas, you leave, you're alone, vulnerable. He's got men everywhere. You wouldn't make it 50 miles. Then what? We just wait for him to come burn us out." Before Silas could answer, Eli burst through the door. The boy was breathing hard, face flushed from running. "Papa, someone's coming. Lots of someones." Silas grabbed his rifle. "How many?" "I counted 12, maybe more. They got a fancy carriage with them." 12 men. A carriage. Silas felt his stomach drop. "He came himself," Clara whispered. Her face had gone white. "Holloway's here. Get the boys in the root cellar." "I'm not hiding." "The boys, Clara, please." Something in his voice stopped her protest. She nodded, gathering Sam from his spot by the fire, calling for Eli. The boy hesitated. "I can help Papa. I can shoot." "You helped enough already. Now I need you to protect your brother. Can you do that for me?" Eli's jaw tightened. So much like his father. "Yes, sir." "Good boy. Go with Clara. Don't come out until I say." Clara herded the boys toward the back of the cabin. At the cellar door she paused, looking back at Silas. "Don't die for me," she said. "Please, I couldn't bear it." "I ain't planning on dying." He met her eyes. "But some things are worth fighting for. You're one of them." Then she was gone, the cellar door closing behind her. Silas stepped onto the porch. They came like an army. 12 riders spread across his land, surrounding the cabin in a loose circle. At their center, a black carriage drawn by matching horses rolled to a stop. The door opened. Marcus Holloway stepped out. He was smaller than Silas expected. A thin man in an expensive coat. Silver hair, slicked back walking stick in hand, despite showing no limp. His face was the kind that smiled easily and meant nothing by it. "Mr. Brennan." Holloway's voice carried across the distance smooth as honey. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." "Ain't nothing here that belongs to you." Now, let's not be unpleasant." Holloway approached the porch slowly, his men spreading wider behind him. "Clara Whitmore is my fiancée. Her family and I have a legal agreement. All I want is to take her home." "She don't want to go." "What she wants is irrelevant. Women are emotional creatures, Mr. Brennan. They don't always know what's best for them. That's why God gave them fathers and husbands to guide their choices." Silas's grip tightened on his rifle. "She ain't your wife yet." "A technicality I intend to correct. The wedding was scheduled for 3 nights ago before Clara had her episode." Holloway's smile widened. "Running off barefoot in a blizzard. Clearly the behavior of a disturbed mind. I've already spoken with doctors in Denver who will testify to her instability. She ain't crazy. She's the sanest person I know. Your loyalty is touching. Misplaced but touching. Holloway climbed the porch steps, stopping just out of arm's reach. Up close, his eyes were flat, empty. The eyes of a man who saw people as pieces on a board. I'm prepared to be generous, Mr. Brennan. Hand over Clara, and I'll forget this unfortunate episode. I might even compensate you for your trouble. Say, $5,000. $5,000. More money than Silas would see in a decade of ranching. She ain't for sale. Everything's for sale. It's simply a matter of finding the right price. Holloway pulled a checkbook from his coat. $10,000 then. Enough to buy twice the land you have now. Think of what you could build. What you could give your sons. My sons don't need blood money. Holloway's smile flickered, just for a moment. You're testing my patience, Mr. Brennan. I've tried to be reasonable. I've offered you wealth beyond your station. But my generosity has limits. So does mine. Get off my land. The smile disappeared entirely. What replaced it was something cold, reptilian. Very well. Holloway turned to his men. Search the property. Find her. The riders dismounted, started toward the cabin. Silas raised his rifle. The first shot cracked the morning air, kicking up dirt at the feet of the nearest man. Everyone froze. Next one goes in someone's chest, Silas said. I ain't particular about whose. You're 1 man against 12, Holloway said calmly. The mathematics are not in your favor. Maybe not, but I'll take at least 4 of you with me before I go down. You willing to bet you ain't one of the 4? Holloway's eyes narrowed. For the first time, doubt flickered across his face. Mr. Holloway! A shout from the road. Riders coming, lots of them. Silas didn't take his eyes off Holloway, but he heard the hoofbeats. Felt the vibration through the porch boards. Someone was coming. Someone with numbers. Around the bend came a group of riders. 8, 10 a dozen. Silas recognized faces. Tom Henley from the neighboring ranch. Old Pete Martinez, who ran the general store. Doc Wilson, who'd delivered both his boys. And at their head, riding a gray mare, Sheriff Jim Cartwright. What's going on here? Cartwright demanded, reining in his horse. Holloway's composure returned. Sheriff, perfect timing. I'm here to retrieve my fiancée. This man is harboring her against her will. Against her will? Cartwright looked at Silas. That true Brennan. She came to me, Jim, ran through a blizzard to escape this man. Nearly died doing it. If she wanted to be with him, why would she do that? Holloway stepped forward. Clara is unwell. She's had a mental break. I have doctors who will... I ain't asking you. Cartwright's voice was sharp. I'm asking Brennan. The lady's inside, Silas said. Ask her yourself. Holloway's jaw clenched. I must protest. Clara is not in a fit state to... Seems to me she's in a fit enough state to run 20 miles in a snowstorm. Cartwright dismounted, handing his reins to one of his men. I'd say that takes a pretty sound mind. Sheriff, I am a man of considerable influence. I have connections in the territorial government. If you interfere with my lawful rights, your lawful rights end where my jurisdiction begins. Cartwright climbed the porch steps. Brennan, the woman. Silas hesitated. Then he called out, Clara, it's safe. Come on up. The cellar door creaked open. Clara emerged slowly, the boys behind her. She walked to the porch chin high despite her bandaged feet and borrowed clothes. Miss Whitmore. Cartwright tipped his hat. This man claims you're his fiancée. Says you ran off in a state of mental distress. What do you say? Clara looked at Holloway. Really looked with all the contempt she'd been forced to swallow for 3 years. I say he's a liar. I was sold to him by my father to pay gambling debts. I was held prisoner in Denver for 3 years. I escaped the night of a wedding I never agreed to. And I would rather die than go back. Her voice carried across the yard strong and clear. Every man present heard. Every man bore witness. Holloway's face reddened. She's delusional. I've never... You kept me in a guest house with guards on the door. Clara stepped toward him, fury overcoming fear. You had my letters intercepted. You told my family I was too fragile for visitors. You discussed me with your business partners like I was a horse you'd purchased. Don't you dare call me delusional. Miss Whitmore. Cartwright's voice was gentle now. Do you want to go with this man? No. Are you being held here against your will? No. Silas Brennan saved my life. He's given me shelter when I had nowhere else to go. Cartwright turned to Holloway. Seems pretty clear to me. The lady don't want to go with you. Ain't no law that says she has to. We have a betrothal agreement. Signed by her father, not her. And last I checked, we don't force women into marriages in Montana territory. The sheriff's hand moved to rest on his pistol. I think it's time you left, Mr. Holloway. Holloway's face twisted. The mask of civility was gone now, revealing something uglier underneath. You'll regret this, he said to Silas. All of you will regret this. Maybe, but I'll sleep just fine tonight. Holloway turned on his heel and stalked back to his carriage. His men mounted up, shooting dark looks at Silas and the assembled townspeople. The carriage door slammed. The driver cracked his whip. They watched until the dust settled, until the hoofbeats faded, until Holloway's carriage disappeared over the horizon. Then Clara's knees buckled. Silas caught her before she hit the ground. She was shaking, trembling with the release of fear she'd been holding back. It's over, he murmured. He's gone. It's not over. Her voice was muffled against his chest. You don't know him. He doesn't lose. He doesn't accept losing. He'll come back. He'll find another way. Then we'll face it. You shouldn't have to. This is my mess. It's our mess now. Silas pulled back, lifting her chin to meet his eyes. You understand me. Whatever comes, we face it together. Clara stared at him. 3 years of walls. 3 years of learning not to trust, not to hope, not to believe in rescue or redemption. And here was this man, this stubborn, impossible man, offering her exactly what she'd stopped believing existed. Why? She whispered. After everything, after what you thought I did, why would you fight for me? Because I never stopped loving you. The words came out rough, like they'd been scraped from somewhere deep. I tried. God knows I tried. But you don't stop loving someone just because it hurts. That ain't how it works. Silas, I ain't asking for anything. I ain't expecting anything. But if you think I'm gonna let some rich man take you against your will, you don't know me at all. Sheriff Cartwright cleared his throat. I don't mean to interrupt a moment, but we should talk about what comes next. Silas straightened one arm still around Clara's waist. What do you mean? Holloway ain't the type to give up. He's got money, power, the kind of connections that can make trouble for a small rancher in the middle of nowhere. I know. So you need allies, people willing to stand with you when the trouble comes. Tom Henley stepped forward. You got mine, Brennan. Man treats a woman like property. He ain't the kind of man I want in my territory. Old Pete nodded. Same here. Miss Whitmore's welcome in my store anytime. Anyone says different can shop elsewhere. One by one, the townspeople voiced their support. Not everyone, some stayed silent, unwilling to risk Holloway's wrath. But enough. Enough to matter. Clara looked at them, these rough-hewn people who'd known her only as the woman who'd broken Silas Brennan's heart, who had every reason to distrust her, and here they were choosing her side. Thank you, she said, voice thick. All of you. Doc Wilson smiled. Nothing to thank, miss. Silas here's one of the good ones. Anyone he vouches for is good enough for us. The group dispersed slowly, heading back to their homes and businesses. Cartwright was the last to go. Keep your eyes open, he told Silas. Men like Holloway don't fight fair. He'll come at you sideways when you ain't expecting. I figured. And get that woman some proper shoes. Cartwright cracked a rare smile. Barefoot bride in December. Ain't decent. He rode away, leaving Silas and Clara alone with the boys. Eli tugged at his father's sleeve. Is the bad man gone, Papa? For now. Is he coming back? Silas looked at Clara, at the fear still lingering in her eyes despite her brave words, at the woman who'd walked through fire to find him. Probably, he admitted, but when he does, we'll be ready. That night after the boys were asleep, Clara found Silas on the porch. He sat in the old rocking chair, rifle across his lap, watching the darkness. You should rest, she said. Can't. Holloway's not coming tonight. He'll regroup first. Plan his next move. Probably. Then why are you out here? Silas was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low. I keep thinking about Jed. Jed? He left yesterday, packed his things and rode out before Holloway even got here. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't look back. Clara settled into the chair beside him. Does that surprise you? No. I just keep wondering. How much did he know? How much was he feeding Holloway all along? You think he was working for both sides? I think Jed Carver's the kind of man who always looks out for himself first. If Holloway offered him money to keep tabs on me, to make sure you never found your way back. The implication hung in the cold air. He could have told Holloway where I was, Clara realized. The night I arrived, he could have sent word to Denver. He could have. We'll never know for sure. Silas. Clara reached for his hand. I'm sorry. For all of it. You trusted him. He was your friend. He was never my friend. I just didn't see it. Silas's fingers intertwined with hers. Funny how clear things get when you're forced to look at them straight. They sat together in silence, hands clasped, watching the stars wheel overhead. Two people who'd been broken by betrayal, learning how to trust again. The boys asked about you today, Silas said eventually. What did they ask? If you're going to be their new mama. Clara's breath caught. What did you tell them? I told them I didn't know, that some things take time. He looked at her firelight from the window playing across his features. Was I wrong? No. Clara's voice was barely a whisper. You weren't wrong. Some things do take time. But I think I'd like to find out what we could be, if you'll let me. Silas raised her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her cold fingers. I've been letting you in since the moment I saw you on that road, he said. I don't reckon I know how to stop. The next morning brought trouble. A rider came at dawn, pushing his horse hard. Silas recognized him as one of Cartwright's deputies. Brennan. The man reined in, barely stopping before he hit the porch. Sheriff sent me. You need to get to town, now. What's wrong? It's Holloway. He went to the judge last night, filed papers. Clara appeared in the doorway, face pale. What kind of papers? The deputy looked at her with something like pity. Custody papers, ma'am. He's claiming you're mentally unfit, wants the court to declare you incompetent and award him guardianship. Clara's knees went weak. She grabbed the doorframe for support. He can't do that, Silas said. She ain't crazy. Don't matter what she is. Matters what the judge decides, and Judge Porter owes Holloway money. Lots of it. Silas was already reaching for his coat. When's the hearing? This afternoon, 2 o'clock. We'll be there. The deputy hesitated. Brennan, you should know. Holloway's got doctors with him. Papers saying Miss Whitmore's been committed before. Letters from her family supporting the guardianship. Her family? Her father's here. Came in with Holloway's carriage last night. Clara made a small sound. Not quite a cry, not quite a word. Something broken. Charles Whitmore is in town, she whispered. My father is here." Silas put his arm around her, felt her trembling against his side. "Then we face him too," he said. "Together." "You don't understand." Clara's eyes were wild. "My father, he'll say anything, do anything. He needs this marriage. Without Holloway's money, he's ruined." "Then let him be ruined. You ain't his property to sell." "The judge won't see it that way. Porter's corrupt. Everyone knows it. And with my father testifying against me with doctors saying I'm mad, then we get our own doctors, our own witnesses, people who've seen you these past days, people who know you ain't crazy. It's not enough. It has to be." Silas gripped her shoulders, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Clara, look at me. I didn't fight for you just to let some bought judge take you away. We're gonna walk into that courtroom and we're gonna fight. You hear me? We fight." Clara stared at him. This man who'd lost everything once because of lies. This man who'd spent 3 years believing she'd abandoned him. This man who had every reason to walk away and instead stood here ready to battle the world on her behalf. "Okay," she breathed. "We fight." "That's my girl." Silas kissed her forehead, quick, firm, full of promise. "Now, let's go remind this judge what justice looks like." The ride to town felt like a march to the gallows. Clara sat beside Silas in the wagon, hands clasped tight in her lap. She'd borrowed one of his late wife's dresses, plain calico faded at the seams, but clean and respectable. Her feet, still bandaged, were stuffed into boots 2 sizes too large. She looked like a rancher's wife, not a mining baron's bride. "Good." "You're shaking," Silas said. "I'm terrified." "That's all right. Being scared means you understand what's at stake." "What if it's not enough? What if the judge—" "Then we appeal. We fight. We don't stop." Clara looked at him. This man who'd lost 3 years to lies, who'd buried a wife, who'd raised 2 boys alone in the harshest country imaginable, and still he sat here, jaw set, eyes forward, ready to battle the world for her. "Why aren't you scared?" she asked. "Who says I ain't? You don't look it." Silas was quiet for a moment. Then, "I spent 3 years scared of the wrong things, scared you'd forgotten me, scared I wasn't enough, scared of what people thought." He shook his head. "I ain't got room for that kind of fear anymore. Only fear I got left is losing you again." Clara's eyes burned. She reached for his hand, squeezed hard. "You won't," she said. "Whatever happens in that courtroom, you won't lose me." The town square was packed. Word had spread fast the way it always did in small communities. A custody hearing, a runaway bride, a Denver millionaire versus a local rancher. It was the most exciting thing to happen since the bank robbery of '72. People lined the boardwalks watching as Silas helped Clara down from the wagon. Some faces were friendly. Some were curious. Some were hostile merchants who did business with Holloway's mining company men, who saw opportunity in backing the winning side. Sheriff Cartwright met them at the courthouse steps. "Judge Porter's already inside," he said quietly. "So's Holloway. And Clara's father." Clara's grip on Silas's arm tightened. "How's it looking?" Silas asked. Cartwright's expression was grim. "Not good. Holloway's got 3 doctors ready to testify. He's got letters. He's got your father, Clara, saying you've been unstable since childhood." "That's a lie." "Don't matter if it's true. Matters if the judge believes it." "Then we make him believe us instead." Cartwright hesitated. "There's something else. Someone you should talk to before we go in." "Who?" The sheriff stepped aside. Behind him stood a woman Clara didn't recognize, middle-aged, plain-faced, wearing the simple dress of a domestic servant. "This is Martha Henley," Cartwright said. "She worked in Holloway's house in Denver, left his employment last month." The woman stepped forward nervously, twisting her hands. "Ma'am?" Clara nodded cautiously. "Do I know you?" "You wouldn't remember me, Miss Whitmore. I worked in the kitchens, but I remember you." Martha's voice was soft but steady. I remember them locking you in that guest house. I remember the guards at your door. I remember how you cried at night when you thought no one could hear. Clara's breath caught. Why are you here? Silas asked. Because I got a conscience. Martha pulled a bundle of papers from her apron. And because I took these when I left. Silas took the papers. His eyes scanned the first page, then widened. What is it? Clara asked. Letters. His voice was rough. Between your father and Holloway, discussing the arrangement. The sale, you mean? Clara's tone was bitter. More than that. Silas handed her the papers. They discussed what to do if you tried to run. Holloway suggested commitment to an asylum. Your father agreed. Clara read the words. Her father's handwriting as familiar as her own face. Discussing her like she was livestock. Agreeing to have her locked away if she didn't comply. He knew, she whispered. He knew what Holloway was planning all along. He helped plan it, Martha said. I'm sorry, miss. I know he's your father, but some truths need telling. Clara looked up at the courthouse. Inside that building waited the man who'd sold her. The man who'd raised her, taught her to read, walked her to school on her first day. The man who'd traded her freedom for his debts. Let's go, she said. The courtroom was standing room only. Judge Porter sat behind his bench, a thin man with watery eyes and a permanent sneer. To his left, Holloway occupied the front row, flanked by 3 men in expensive suits the doctors Clara assumed. Her father sat beside them. Charles Whitmore looked older than she remembered, grayer. His shoulders stooped in a way they hadn't before, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating. The eyes of a man who'd learned to see people as means to ends. He didn't look at Clara when she entered, kept his gaze fixed forward, jaw tight. All rise, the bailiff called. Court is now in session. Porter banged his gavel. This is a hearing to determine the mental competency of Clara Ann Whitmore. Mr. Holloway, you've filed a petition for guardianship. State your case. Holloway stood smooth as silk. Your Honor, Miss Whitmore and I have been engaged for 3 years. In that time, I've witnessed a troubling pattern of erratic behavior. She's prone to flights of fancy paranoid delusions, and most recently, a dangerous episode where she fled into a blizzard wearing nothing but a wedding dress. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I have 3 physicians who examined Miss Whitmore during her time in Denver. Holloway continued. All 3 are prepared to testify to her instability. I also have letters from her father documenting similar episodes throughout her childhood. Call your first witness. The first doctor took the stand. A pompous man with a thick German accent, he spoke at length about female hysteria, about the dangers of allowing unstable women to make their own decisions, about the necessity of firm male guidance. Clara sat, rigid hands clenched in her lap. Every word was a knife. The second doctor was worse. He described symptoms Clara had never exhibited, episodes that never happened. He spoke of finding her talking to herself, of catching her trying to harm herself with scissors. That's not true, Clara whispered. None of that is true. Silas's hand found hers under the table. Wait. The third doctor sealed it. He produced a document supposedly signed by Clara herself, requesting treatment for nervous exhaustion. I never signed that, Clara said louder now. That's a forgery. Miss Whitmore, you'll have your turn to speak, Porter said coldly. Mr. Holloway, any other witnesses? Yes, Your Honor. I call Charles Whitmore. Clara's father rose slowly. He walked to the witness stand without looking at his daughter, placed his hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Holloway approached him like an old friend. Mr. Whitmore, tell us about your daughter. Charles cleared his throat. Clara was always difficult, even as a child. She had fantasies, made up stories, couldn't distinguish reality from imagination. Did these episodes continue into adulthood? Yes. That's why I arranged her marriage to Mr. Holloway. I hoped a stable home environment would help her condition. And did it? I'm afraid not. Clara continued to have episodes. She became convinced she was being held prisoner, that we were conspiring against her. Charles shook his head sadly. Delusions. All of it. We only wanted what was best for her. Clara couldn't stay silent anymore. You're lying. Porter's gavel cracked. Miss Whitmore, you will remain quiet, or I'll have you removed. He's lying. He sold me to pay his gambling debts. There was no illness. There was only his greed. One more outburst, and you'll be held in contempt. Silas pulled her back down. Easy. Our turn's coming. Holloway smiled the expression of a man who knew he'd already won. No further questions, Your Honor. Porter nodded. Mr. Brennan, I understand you're speaking for Miss Whitmore. Silas stood. I am. You're not a lawyer. No, sir. But I know the truth when I hear it, and I know lies even better. Snickers from Holloway's side. Porter's sneer deepened. Very well. Call your witnesses. Silas turned to the gallery. I call Martha Henley. Holloway's expression flickered. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed his face. Martha took the stand, hands trembling but voice clear. State your name and occupation. Martha Henley. I was a kitchen maid in Mr. Holloway's Denver residence for 4 years. And in that time, did you observe Miss Whitmore? I did. Every day. Tell the court what you saw. Martha took a breath. I saw a young woman locked in a guest house against her will. I saw guards posted at her door around the clock. I saw her crying at her window watching the world go by without her. Murmurs from the crowd. Did you ever see Miss Whitmore exhibit signs of mental illness? Never. She was sharp as a tack. Read every book in the house. Did arithmetic in her head faster than the accountant. The only time she seemed upset was when she talked about the man she'd left behind. Martha looked at Silas. The man she loved. Holloway shot to his feet. This woman is a disgruntled former employee. She was dismissed for theft. I quit, Martha said firmly. Quit because I couldn't stomach what was being done to that poor girl. Your Honor, this testimony is irrelevant. Sit down, Mr. Holloway. Porter's voice was sharp. I'll decide what's relevant. Silas pressed forward. Mrs. Henley, did you ever hear conversations between Mr. Holloway and Charles Whitmore about Miss Whitmore? I did. Through the kitchen walls. Voices carry in old houses. And what did you hear? I heard them discuss how much Mr. Whitmore owed in gambling debts. I heard Mr. Holloway offer to forgive those debts in exchange for Clara's hand. I heard them laugh about how she'd have no choice but to comply. The courtroom erupted. Porter banged his gavel repeatedly. Order, order. Clara's father was on his feet. That's hearsay, she's making it up. I got proof, Martha said. She pointed at Silas. He's got the letters. Every eye turned to Silas. Your Honor, he said. I have in my possession correspondence between Marcus Holloway and Charles Whitmore. Letters discussing the sale of Clara Whitmore as payment for her father's debts. Letters planning what to do if she resisted, including commitment to an asylum. He held up the papers. These are forgeries, Holloway snarled. Manufactured lies. They're in your handwriting, Mr. Holloway, and Mr. Whitmore's. Any handwriting expert can confirm it. Porter's face had gone pale. His eyes darted between Holloway and the letter's calculation, visible in every twitch. Your Honor, Silas continued, there is no mental illness here. There is only a conspiracy to sell a woman against her will. Everything these doctors testified to is fabricated. The signature on that treatment request is forged. This entire proceeding is a sham designed to steal Clara Whitmore's freedom. The crowd roared. People were on their feet shouting, pointing. Sheriff Cartwright moved toward the doors, hand on his pistol. Enough! Porter slammed his gavel so hard it cracked. I will have order. The noise subsided slowly. Holloway remained standing, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Your Honor," he said, voice tight, "regardless of these allegations, the fact remains that Miss Whitmore fled into a snowstorm barefoot. That is not the behavior of a sound mind." "That is the behavior of a desperate woman," Silas countered. "A woman who would rather die free than live as a prisoner." "Pretty words, Mr. Brennan, but words don't change facts." "No, facts change facts." Silas turned to the gallery. "I call Doc Wilson." The old physician made his way to the stand. "Doc, you examined Miss Whitmore when I brought her in from the storm." "I did." "And in your professional opinion, is she mentally competent?" Wilson looked at Clara, then at the judge. "She's the most clear-headed patient I've seen in 20 years. Stubborn, determined, and sharp as broken glass. That woman ain't crazy. She's just been through hell." "Thank you, Doc." Holloway was sweating now. His doctors exchanged nervous glances. Charles Whitmore had sunk low in his seat, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Porter looked like a man caught between two freight trains. His debts to Holloway warred visibly with the public nature of the proceedings. Too many witnesses. Too many eyes. "I need time to consider," he said finally. "Court will recess for 1 hour." The gavel fell. Clara slumped in her chair. Silas crouched beside her, taking her hands. "You did good," he said. "We don't know yet. Porter's corrupt. He could, but he's also scared. You saw his face. He knows if he rules against you now with all these witnesses, his career is over. And if he rules for me, Holloway won't just accept that. Then we deal with Holloway." The hour passed like a year. Clara sat on a bench outside the courtroom, Silas beside her Cartwright nearby. People approached to offer support, ranchers and shopkeepers who'd watched the proceedings, who'd seen the letters, who'd heard Martha's testimony. Not everyone was friendly. Some shot her dark looks, supporters of Holloway, who saw their own fortunes tied to his. But they were outnumbered. The truth had weight, and it was pressing down. "Clara." She looked up. Her father stood a few feet away, hat in hands, face pale. Silas started to rise, but Clara stopped him with a touch. "It's all right." Charles Whitmore approached slowly, like a man walking to his own execution. "I suppose you hate me," he said. "I don't know what I feel." Clara's voice was flat. "I spent 3 years trying to understand how my own father could sell me. I never found an answer that made sense. It wasn't. I didn't want—" He trailed off, swallowed hard. "I was in trouble, Clara. Bad trouble. Men were going to kill me. Holloway offered a way out. And my life was worth less than your debts. I thought you'd be happy eventually. Rich husband, fine house. A prison. That's what you gave me. A gilded cage with a jailer who saw me as property." Charles's eyes glistened. "I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know nothing I say will fix what I've done. But I'm sorry." Clara stood, faced her father fully for the first time in 3 years. "You're right," she said quietly. "It's not enough. Maybe someday I'll find a way to forgive you. But not today. Not here." She turned her back on him. Charles Whitmore stood alone, shoulders bowed, while his daughter walked away. The bailiff called them back. Clara took her seat, heart pounding. Silas sat beside her, solid and steady as the mountains. Judge Porter entered slowly. His face was unreadable, but his hands trembled slightly as he arranged his papers. "I've considered the evidence presented," he began. "This case involves serious allegations on both sides. Allegations of mental instability, allegations of conspiracy, and unlawful imprisonment." He paused. The courtroom held its breath. "The testimony of the physicians is troubling. However, the evidence presented by the defense raises significant doubts about the validity of that testimony." Holloway's jaw tightened. "Furthermore," Porter continued, "the letters introduced into evidence suggest a pattern of coercion that cannot be ignored." Clara's heart lifted. However, it crashed back down. The court cannot simply dismiss the concerns raised by Mr. Holloway. Miss Whitmore did flee into a deadly storm wearing inappropriate clothing. This behavior, while potentially explicable, does suggest some degree of impaired judgment. Your Honor, Silas started. I'm not finished, Mr. Brennan. Porter's voice was cold. Given the complexity of this case, I am ordering a 30-day evaluation period. Miss Whitmore will be remanded to the Territorial Asylum in Helena, where qualified physicians can properly assess. No. Clara was on her feet before she knew she was moving. You can't. That asylum people go in and never come out. It's a death sentence. Miss Whitmore, sit down. I won't. I'd rather die than... The courtroom doors burst open. Every head turned. A man strode in trail dust, still on his clothes, dispatch case in hand. He was young, sharp-eyed, with the bearing of someone used to authority. Who the hell are you? Porter demanded. Thomas Reed, Your Honor, Assistant to Territorial Governor Potts. He held up the dispatch case. I bring orders from the governor himself. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Porter's face went from red to white. What orders? Reed approached the bench. Governor Potts has been made aware of this case through concerned citizens. He's reviewed the evidence, including copies of the letters between Mr. Holloway and Mr. Whitmore. He opened the case, withdrew an official document, gold seal gleaming. The governor has issued an executive order. All proceedings against Clara Whitmore are to cease immediately. Furthermore, Mr. Marcus Holloway is to be detained for questioning regarding potential charges of unlawful imprisonment and conspiracy to commit fraud. Holloway shot to his feet. This is outrageous. I am a citizen of good standing. The governor has no authority. The governor has every authority, Mr. Holloway. Reed's voice was ice. And I should mention he's also ordered an investigation into Judge Porter's financial dealings. Seems there are some irregularities that warrant attention. Porter's gavel dropped from his nerveless fingers. Sheriff Cartwright stepped forward, hand on his pistol. Marcus Holloway, you're under arrest. Holloway backed away. You can't do this. I have rights. I have lawyers. You'll have plenty of time to talk to them. Cartwright nodded to his deputies. Take him. They moved in. Holloway struggled briefly, then went still, face twisted with impotent rage. As they led him past Clara, he leaned close. This isn't over, he hissed. I don't care how long it takes. I will destroy you. Both of you. Silas stepped between them. Get him out of here. The deputies dragged Holloway away. His shouts echoed down the corridor, then faded to nothing. Clara stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Free. She was free. After 3 years of captivity and fear, after running through blizzards and facing down armed men, after watching her father betray her and her life be bartered like cattle, she was free. Her knees gave out. Silas caught her before she hit the floor, held her as 3 years of tears finally broke loose. She sobbed against his chest, great racking cries that shook her whole body. It's over, he murmured. Clara, it's over. You're free. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. You're never going back to that life. Never. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. What now? She whispered. Silas smiled. The first real smile she'd seen from him since that frozen road. Now we go home. The wagon ride home felt different. Clara sat beside Silas, the same seat she'd occupied that morning. But everything had changed. The weight she'd carried for 3 years, the fear, the uncertainty, the constant looking over her shoulder was gone. Not faded, not diminished. Gone. She breathed deep. The cold air filled her lungs, sharp and clean. You're quiet, Silas said. I'm thinking. About what? About how strange it is. This morning I was certain I'd end up in an asylum. Now I'm... She shook her head. I don't even know what I am now. You're free. Silas's voice was steady. That's what you are. It doesn't feel real yet. It will. Give it time. They rode in silence for a while. The town fell away behind them. The open plains stretched ahead, white and endless, and full of possibility. Silas. The boys. Will they... do you think they could ever see me as... She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't voice the hope that felt too fragile to speak aloud. Silas pulled the wagon to a stop, turned to face her fully. Clara, those boys have been asking for a mother since they could talk. Eli prays for one every night. Sam draws pictures of families with a mama in them, then hides them under his bed because he's embarrassed. Her eyes burned. That doesn't mean they want me. Sam told you he liked your hair. You know how long it took him to talk to Doc Wilson, 3 years. The man delivered him, and Sam still hides behind furniture when he visits. That's different. Is it? Silas took her hand. Children know things, Clara. They sense things adults miss. My boys looked at you and saw something safe, something good. That ain't nothing. Clara stared at their joined hands. His fingers were rough, calloused from years of rope and leather. Hers were softer, but marked too by different kinds of labor, different kinds of pain. I don't know how to be a mother, she admitted. I barely remember my own. She died when I was 8. Nobody knows how to be a parent until they are 1. You figure it out as you go. What if I do it wrong? Then you apologize and try again. Silas squeezed her hand. That's all any of us can do. The ranch appeared over the ridge, smoke rising from the chimney. Tom Henley's wife had been watching the boys while they were in town. Clara could see her wagon tied outside. Before they even stopped, the cabin door flew open. Papa! Sam came running, coat half-buttoned, boots on the wrong feet. Papa, you're back. Did you win? Did the bad man go away? Silas jumped down and scooped his son into his arms. We won, little man. The bad man's going to jail. For how long? A real long time. Eli appeared in the doorway, more cautious than his brother. His eyes went to Clara first, searching her face. You're staying, he said. Not a question. Clara climbed down from the wagon, wincing at the pressure on her still healing feet. If you'll have me. Eli was quiet for a moment. Then he crossed the yard, stopping directly in front of her. You make Papa smile, he said seriously. He don't smile much, but he smiles when you're around. Clara's heart clenched. Is that a good thing? It's a real good thing. Eli stuck out his hand, formal, as a little businessman. Welcome to our family, Miss Clara. She took his hand, shook it solemnly. Then, before she could stop herself, she pulled him into a hug. Eli stiffened for just a moment. Then his arms came around her waist, squeezing tight. I'm glad you didn't die in the snow, he mumbled against her shoulder. Me too, Eli. Me too. Sam squirmed out of Silas's arms and ran to join the hug. Me too, I'm glad too. Clara laughed a real laugh, the first in years. She held both boys close, feeling their warmth, their trust, their unguarded acceptance. When she looked up, Silas was watching them with something raw in his eyes. What? She asked. Nothing. His voice was rough. Just, this is what I imagined. Back when we were courting. This is exactly what I imagined. That night, after the boys were in bed, Clara and Silas sat on the porch. The stars were out brilliant, and countless scattered across the black sky like spilled diamonds. The cold had settled in, sharp and biting, but neither moved to go inside. Can I ask you something? Clara said. Anything. Sarah, your wife. She hesitated. What was she like? Silas was quiet for a long moment. She was kind, practical, the kind of woman who saw what needed doing and did it without complaint. Did you love her? I cared for her, deeply, but... He exhaled slowly. She deserved better than what I gave her. She knew it too. Never said so, but she knew. Because of me. Because I was broken when she married me. She thought she could fix what you'd left behind. What I thought you'd left behind. His jaw tightened. She couldn't. Nobody could. And she spent 5 years trying before she died giving me Sam. Clara felt the weight of those words, the guilt she hadn't earned but felt anyway. I'm sorry. Don't be. None of it was your fault. But if you hadn't been kidnapped, held prisoner. Silas turned to face her. Clara, you didn't choose any of this. Your father made choices. Holloway made choices. Jed made choices. You just survived them. I still feel responsible. Then stop. His voice was firm but gentle. I ain't gonna spend our future mourning our past. Sarah's gone. Those 3 years are gone. We can't get them back, but we can choose what comes next. And what comes next? Silas reached into his pocket, pulled out something small, something that caught the starlight and glinted silver. A ring. Clara's breath stopped. This was my grandmother's, Silas said. I was going to give it to you 3 years ago. Had it in my pocket the day I went to your father's store with those flowers. Silas, I ain't asking you to marry me tonight. I know we need time. I know trust has to be rebuilt. But I want you to have this. As a promise. A promise of what? That I'm in this, all the way, however long it takes, whatever happens. He held out the ring. I lost you once because I didn't fight hard enough. I ain't making that mistake again. Clara looked at the ring. Simple, beautiful, real. Yes, she whispered. Yes, what? Yes, I'll wear it. Yes, I'll stay. Yes to whatever comes next. She held out her hand, trembling slightly. Yes to you, Silas Brennan. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. How did you know my size? I didn't. I just hoped. Clara laughed through her tears. You're a foolish man. Probably. But I'm your foolish man now. She kissed him. It wasn't their first kiss. They'd stolen plenty during their courtship, hidden moments in barns and behind churches. But this was different. This was a beginning, not an echo of what had been. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Silas rested his forehead against hers. We should probably go inside, he said. Probably. Neither moved. Clara. I need to tell you something. The shift in his tone made her pull back. His face was serious now, almost troubled. What is it? Holloway. Before they took him away, he said something. I heard. He threatened us. It wasn't just a threat. Silas's jaw tightened. I talked to Cartwright. Holloway's got connections we don't know about. Men in Denver. Men in Washington. The kind of men who make problems disappear. What are you saying? I'm saying he might not stay in jail long. Rich men rarely do. Clara felt the cold settle back into her bones. So it's not over. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe the governor's attention will keep him locked up. But if it doesn't, he'll come for us. He'll try. Silas took her hands. But I want you to know something. Whatever happens, I won't let him take you. Not again. Not ever. Silas, you can't promise. I can. And I am. His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. I will die before I let that man touch you again. Do you understand? I will burn this whole territory to the ground before I let him win. Clara stared at him. This man who'd lost everything once. Who'd spent 3 years believing she'd abandoned him. Who'd raised 2 boys alone, mourned a wife he couldn't fully love, built a life from nothing but stubbornness and hope. Then we fight together, she said. If he comes, we fight together. Promise me that. No martyrs, no sacrifices, together. Together, Silas agreed. Always. They went inside, hands linked, ready to face whatever came. 3 weeks passed. Clara's feet healed. She learned the rhythms of the ranch, the early mornings, the endless chores, the bone-deep exhaustion that came from honest work. She learned how Eli liked his eggs and how Sam couldn't sleep without his mother's blanket. She learned which boards creaked and which windows stuck, and where Silas kept the good whiskey hidden from prying eyes. She learned what it meant to be part of a family. One morning, while Silas was in the barn, a rider appeared on the ridge. Clara's heart seized. Her hand went to the rifle by the door, but as the rider drew closer, she saw it wasn't one of Holloway's men. It was Sheriff Cartwright, riding alone, face grim. "Sheriff?" She stepped onto the porch, rifle still in hand. "What's wrong?" Cartwright dismounted, removing his hat. Miss Whitmore, is Silas around?" "In the barn. Should I fetch him?" "Please." Something in his tone made her blood run cold. She called for Silas, never taking her eyes off Cartwright's face. Silas emerged, saw the sheriff, and crossed the yard in quick strides. "Jim, what is it?" Cartwright looked between them. Whatever he had to say, he didn't want to say it. "Holloway's dead." Clara felt the world tilt. "What?" "Found him this morning in his cell. Hanged himself with his belt." Silas went very still. "You're sure it was suicide?" "That's what the coroner says." "But you're not sure?" Cartwright was quiet for a long moment. "Man like Holloway don't strike me as the type to give up. He was already talking to lawyers calling in favors. Why would he kill himself when he still had cards to play?" "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying he had powerful friends. Friends who maybe didn't want him talking to investigators about their business dealings. Friends who might have decided he was a liability." Clara's legs went weak. She sat down heavily on the porch step. "So it's really over." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "He's really gone." "He's gone," Cartwright confirmed. "Whether he went willingly or not, well, that ain't something we'll ever know for certain." Silas crouched beside Clara, hand on her shoulder. "How do you feel?" "I don't know." She stared at nothing. "I should feel relieved. I should feel happy. But I just feel empty. Numb." She looked at him. "Does that make me a bad person?" "It makes you human." Silas pulled her close. "You spent 3 years afraid of that man. You don't just stop being afraid because he's dead. It takes time." Cartwright cleared his throat. "There's one more thing." "What?" "Holloway's estate. Turns out he had no family, no will. His lawyers are going through his papers, and they found something interesting." "What kind of something?" Cartwright pulled a folded document from his coat. "A contract between Holloway and Charles Whitmore. A betrothal agreement that includes a substantial dowry clause." Clara frowned. "I don't understand." "The contract specifies that if the marriage didn't take place for any reason except Clara's death, the dowry $50,000 would be forfeit to the bride." Silence. $50,000, Silas repeated. Seems Holloway was so confident Clara would never escape, he never worried about the clause. But technically... Cartwright held out the document. "Miss Whitmore is now a wealthy woman." Clara took the paper with numb fingers, read the words without comprehending them. "This can't be right. It's been verified." "Holloway's lawyers are furious, but there's nothing they can do. The contract is binding." $50,000. More money than she'd ever imagined. More money than the ranch was worth 10 times over. "I don't want it," she said suddenly. "It's blood money. Holloway's money." "It's your money now," Cartwright said gently. "What you do with it is your choice." After the sheriff left, Clara and Silas sat in the kitchen, the contract spread between them. $50,000, Silas said. "You could buy half the territory with that." "I told you, I don't want it." Clara. "That money was meant to purchase me, like livestock, like property." Her voice shook. "I can't touch it. I can't even look at it." Silas was quiet. Then, what if it wasn't his money? "What do you mean? What if you changed what it meant, used it for something good?" Clara frowned. Like what? That asylum in Helena. The one Porter was going to send you to. You said people go in and never come out. They don't. It's a nightmare. The conditions. So change them. Silas leaned forward. Use Holloway's money to help the people he would have hurt. Build something better. Turn his evil into something good. Clara stared at him. You're serious. Dead serious. Think about it. $50,000 could build a real hospital. Hire real doctors. Give those people a chance. I wouldn't know where to start. Then you learn. You find people who do know. You make it happen. Silas took her hand. Clara, you survived 3 years of hell. You didn't break. You escaped. You fought back. If anyone can turn something ugly into something beautiful, it's you. Clara looked at the contract again. The numbers and clauses that had been meant to bind her to own her. What if she could reclaim them? What if she could transform the symbol of her captivity into a symbol of freedom, not just for her, but for others? The Clara Whitmore Home for the Afflicted, she murmured. A place where people are healed, not hidden. I like it. It would take years. We got years. It might not work. Then at least we tried. Clara felt something shift inside her. The numbness that had settled after Holloway's death began to crack, and beneath it she found something unexpected. Hope. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Spring came slowly to Montana. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown grass and frozen mud. Creeks swelled with runoff. Birds returned from their southern journeys, filling the air with songs that had been absent for months. Clara stood on the porch, watching Eli teach Sam how to throw a rope. The younger boy's attempts were clumsy, more dangerous to himself than any calf. But Eli was patient, guiding, encouraging. You've got good boys, she said when Silas joined her. They're your boys now, too. Clara smiled. The words still felt strange. Wonderful, but strange. The builders broke ground on the hospital yesterday, she said. Doc Wilson's helping design the treatment rooms. Says we'll be able to take patients by fall. That's fast. Money talks, even out here. Silas slipped an arm around her waist. Your father wrote again. Clara stiffened. I know. I saw the letter. You gonna read it? Maybe. Someday. She sighed. He's trying, I suppose. The letters keep coming. Apologies, explanations, promises to do better. And I don't know if I can forgive him. What he did. She shook her head. Some things break too badly to be fixed. That's fair. Is it? Clara turned to face him. Sometimes I think I should try. He's the only family I have left. That ain't true. Silas gestured toward the boys. You've got them. You've got me. You've got this whole town that stood up for you when it mattered. It's not the same as blood. No. It's better. His voice was firm. Blood didn't protect you, Clara. Blood sold you. This family, our family, we chose each other. That means more than any accident of birth. Clara leaned into him, let his warmth chase away the chill of old memories. I love you, she said. The words came easily now. She'd said them 100 times over the past weeks, would say them 100 more. I love you too. Papa. Sam came running rope trailing behind him. Papa, I did it. I lassoed the fence post. Did you now? Eli saw. He said I was almost as good as him. I said almost. Eli corrected, following behind. You still got a lot of practice to do. But I'm getting better, right? Tell him, Miss Clara. Tell him I'm getting better. Clara crouched down, meeting Sam's excited eyes. You're getting much better. Pretty soon you'll be teaching your papa. Sam beamed. Then his face grew serious. Miss Clara. Yes. Can I mean, would it be okay if I called you something different? Clara's heart clenched. Like what? Like, Ma. The word came out small, uncertain. Eli says I shouldn't. 'Cause you're not our real ma. But you feel like a ma. And I never had one before. And I was thinking, maybe—" He trailed off suddenly shy. Clara looked at Silas. His eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Sam." She took the boy's hands in hers. "I would be honored if you called me Ma." "Really? Really?" Sam threw himself into her arms, squeezing tight. "I love you, Ma." The words broke something open inside her, something she'd kept locked away for 3 years, something she'd thought was dead. "I love you too, sweetheart. I love you so much." Eli stood apart, watching with guarded eyes. Clara opened one arm toward him. "There's room for you too," she said softly. He hesitated. 7 years old, but already so careful. Already so used to protecting himself. Then he walked forward and let himself be gathered into the embrace. They stood there in the spring sunshine, 4 people who'd found each other through darkness and pain. 2 boys who'd grown up without a mother, a woman who'd escaped a prison of silk and lies, a man who'd loved and lost and learned to love again. A family, imperfect and scarred and held together by choice rather than chance, but real, so very, very real. That evening the neighbors came. Word had spread about Holloway's death, about Clara's inheritance, about the hospital she was building. People wanted to celebrate, to acknowledge the end of a dark chapter and the beginning of something new. Tom Henley brought his fiddle. Old Pete Martinez brought enough food to feed an army. Doc Wilson brought whiskey and stories that made even Clara blush. The cabin filled with laughter and music and warmth. At some point, Silas pulled Clara aside. "I have something for you," he said. "Another ring. Better." He pressed a folded paper into her hands. "Open it." Clara unfolded the document, read the words slowly, not quite believing. "This is a marriage license. Already signed by the judge. Well, the new judge. Porter's gone, resigned before they could investigate him." Silas took her hands. "I know I said we could wait. Take our time. But I realized something." "What?" "I don't want to wait anymore. I've already lost 3 years. I don't want to lose another day." Clara looked at the license, at the man standing before her, at the life she'd never expected to have. "Silas Brennan," she said slowly. "Are you asking me to marry you right now? Tonight? I'm asking if you'll have me. Tonight. Tomorrow. Every day after." He dropped to one knee right there in the middle of his own kitchen, with neighbors streaming through and children running underfoot. "Clara Whitmore, I loved you when we were young and foolish. I loved you through 3 years of not knowing. I love you now, standing in my home, wearing my grandmother's ring. Will you marry me?" The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Clara felt the tears coming, but didn't try to stop them. "Yes," she said. 1,000 times yes." Silas stood and kissed her deep and thorough, not caring who was watching. The room erupted in cheers. They were married that night in the same cabin where Silas had saved her life. Doc Wilson officiated. Turns out he was also a licensed minister. The boys stood as witnesses, Sam bouncing with excitement, Eli trying and failing to look dignified. It wasn't the wedding Clara had imagined as a girl. No grand church, no silk dress, no hundreds of guests. It was better. It was real. It was hers. When the ceremony ended and the guests had gone, when the boys were finally asleep and the fire had burned low, Silas and Clara stood on the porch one last time. "Mrs. Brennan," he said, testing the words. "Mr. Brennan," she replied. "How does it feel?" Clara thought about everything she'd survived. The kidnapping, the captivity, the frozen road where she'd nearly died, the courtroom where her fate had hung in the balance. And she thought about everything she'd found. Love, family, purpose. A future she'd stopped believing was possible. "It feels like home," she said. "It feels like I finally found my way home." Silas pulled her close. "You were always welcome here," he said. "All you had to do was come back." "I know that now. And you'll never have to run again. Never have to be afraid. Never have to face anything alone. I know that too." She kissed him soft and sweet, a promise of all the years to come. Above them, the stars wheeled in their eternal dance. The winter had passed. The snow had melted. And in a small cabin on the Montana plains, two people who'd been broken by the world had somehow managed to make each other whole. Some stories end with great battles, with dramatic confrontations, with villains vanquished and heroes triumphant. But the best stories, the truest stories, end with something simpler. They end with a man and a woman standing on a porch, holding each other in the darkness, knowing that whatever comes tomorrow, they'll face it together. They end with two boys sleeping soundly, dreaming of the mother they'd finally found. They end with love, patient and stubborn and unbreakable, proving that even the coldest winter must eventually give way to spring. Clara Whitmore had walked barefoot through a blizzard to find her way home, and home was exactly where she would stay.